region. So thank you for being here. And events like this take a lot of effort to organize. So I'd like to thank our alumni board members who work very hard in identifying speakers and helping us plan this event. Also, this event and events like this could not be possible without the awesome efforts of our alumni and development team from Athens. So many thanks to my awesome colleagues from Athens and here in Atlanta as well. And finally, sponsors play such an important role in helping us get these events off the ground and sustaining them. So I'd like to thank our corporate sponsor, Synovus, which is Pinnacle now, for helping sponsor this event for a long time. And Synovus has had a long-standing relationship with the University of Georgia and the Terry College of Business. Personally, when I was running the full-time MBA program, and even as an associate dean overseeing those programs, we've benefited from their support, especially sitting on our advisory boards for the MBA program, sponsoring and supporting capstone projects for our MS Analytics program and our MBA program. So we're very grateful for that. And then our media sponsor today is WABE, the Public Broadcasting Atlanta. Thanks to them for helping us stream this, record and stream this event as well. We have another exciting Terry Third Thursday event on May 21st. Aaron Murray, who's a former UGA quarterback and a current ESPN college football analyst, will be here on the 21st at 7. So I hope to see many of you here. Listen to him. And then we'll take a little break in June and July and recharge and reset and come back in August and resume the series again. But without further ado, it is my great honor and pleasure today to introduce this morning's speaker, Tarun Ganeriwal. Tarun is president, CEO, and founder of KBH Industrial, a Smyrna-based powerhouse providing critical construction and procurement services to the energy and oil and gas markets. Under his leadership, KBH celebrated a second consecutive year as the fastest growing UGA alumni-owned business at UGA's Bulldog 100 celebration last February. So he's done it 2 years in a row, and I'm fully expecting him to do a three-peat and at least, probably do better than our football team. And so the success is backed by over 30 years of industry expertise. Before launching KBH, he held several key leadership roles at General Electric and served as Senior Vice President at Williams Industrial Services Group. He holds a degree in mechanical engineering from Virginia Tech and earned his MBA at Terry. And personally speaking, I've enjoyed getting to know Tarun over the last few months. He's been a great supporter of the Terry College, and we've had great discussions with him and the Dean of the UGA College of Engineering, Alex Orso, to put together something exciting in the field of energy and energy security. So we'll hopefully make an announcement soon, but the idea is to bring together the power industry in the region at the intersection of business education and engineering education and get some exciting initiatives going. So we are excited about that, but today we are excited to have Tarun here and speak to us. And so Tarun, so glad you could join us.
Thank you. So, first of all, a three-peat would be very hard. We'll try, but it'll be very difficult. So I'm going to walk around a little bit. I like to walk. First, good morning. Besides 3 people that work for me, Hannah, Kyle, and Casey, who I pay them to wake up early and come here. For the rest of you guys, it's amazing how great this room looks. Welcome to this event. Dean Chatterjee, thank you for having me. Christine, I'm not sure where she's at. Thank you for coordinating and inviting us. I mean, this is a big honor to be able to come and speak to this group. I did my executive MBA here, graduated in 2009, but University of Georgia, I feel like at times, even though I went undergrad at Virginia Tech, has become my school, and we're investing a lot in the school, and being a 2-time fastest growing company has been a true honor. I mean, very humbled, but with that being said, we're going to talk a little bit about our story and what we've been doing, and honestly, I just want to open it up for Q&A at the end or any time. I mean, if anyone has any questions throughout, feel free to ask, but we're going to get going here. Oh, went too far. All right, I'm going to let this sit for a sec because this is a little bit about everything we're going to be talking about today. And So I'm not sure who in this room likes to play blackjack. I enjoy playing blackjack. So betting is something that, I do for fun. But when you think about betting, something that involves your family and your well-being, that's a whole different conversation. But I was 30 years, almost 30 years in the corporate world. But I decided to make a jump. And I'm going to talk a little bit today about, why that happened, how that happened, what we learned, and maybe, I'm going to use the term maybe share some advice with you guys on things that you can take with you. So who am I? Again, Dean Chatterjee just told you a little bit, but engineer by education from Virginia Tech, 20 years with General Electric in the power and the electrical businesses. Did my executive MBA right here in this building, 2007 to 2009. I followed a leader from GE and became a senior VP at Williams Industrial Services, all in the power energy sector. And then I had a chance to start KBH. So again, that's a short version of who I am, but we're going to fill in the gaps and talk a little bit more about, how we did it. So Virginia Tech, mechanical engineering wasn't something I really wanted to do. My dad was an electrical engineer from India, and it was almost drilled in your head that you're going to be an engineer, you're going to be an engineer. And so I did the engineering thing. Virginia Tech, I grew up outside of Washington, D.C., so Virginia Tech was somewhere I always wanted to go. I thought they were going to have a good football team. That just never really happened. I mean, we're still waiting for that. But the engineering curriculum at Virginia Tech, even though I kind of fought it tooth and nail, it opened my mind to solving problems, or big issues or things that you didn't know were going to happen. And that was one of the things that Virginia Tech, doing that program, really helped me with, but also the relationships that I developed with my friends, which are still my closest friends, all started at Virginia Tech. While I was at Virginia Tech, one of those relationships got me an opportunity with General Electric. So I started with GE on a leadership program. And the company GE is definitely different today, but when I joined it in '94, it was a conglomerate of energy, power, aerospace. They had NBC, they had appliances, they had everything. So it was a big company, but a lot of different pieces of it. So it was the scale of the company, it was the leadership, of the people you met and learned in the company, and really it was the classroom of what was going to come next. I mean, for me, GE was a place that I thought I was going to spend my whole career with. I mean, I was almost 20 years, and I thought I was going to go 40. Like my dad had been with one company for 40 years, and I just assumed I was going to do the same thing. But there was a little change that happened. But while I was at GE, I had the opportunity to come to this building and do my executive MBA. And while I was doing that, there was just different classes and different things I learned that started pulling at me about, maybe the career with GE may not be the only thing I want to do. So again, like I said, I followed a leader from GE who was an officer over to a company called Williams Industrial Services. In the same space, it was the power generation space. It was all across the country. And I was a senior vice president. That business, again, it was a smaller, much smaller business than GE, but it helped open my eyes to some of the issues that were out there, and some of the problems that were out there, and things that we could do. So again, at this point, I'm almost 30 years into my career, and I was like, something was pulling at me. Something was saying, hey, there's something else out there. And that's, really the point where I decided to do something different. So I'm going to talk a little bit about a timeline, and I'm going to talk a little about the history, and then we're going to go more into the business of KBH. But in 2008, while I was in this building, we were in an entrepreneurship class, and the class was talking about how to start a business, and was going through all the details of it. And at that point, I just knew I wanted to do something. And so I actually went and formed a business. And those initials, people ask, what does KBH stand for? So I have 2 of my 5 children currently in this room today. One's name is Kyle. Kyle, raise your hand. And one name is Hannah. Hannah, raise your hand. And so Kyle and Hannah are the K and the H in KBH. And the B is Bella, their middle sister. So those were my 3 children at that time. And, I had gone through a divorce, and I was working for GE. I went back and did my executive MBA, and, I just, said, hey, I'm going to start something. I had no idea what it was going to be, but I put their initials on it because, again, at that point, they were everything to me, right? So we started KBH Solutions. I was still working for GE. I was not finished with our executive MBA yet. And what kind of stemmed from that was an opportunity to start a business Not that I wanted to, but it was a business doing chess. So the business we started called Chess to Children was under the KBH umbrella. And there was no reason to do that, but that was just something, we saw. Kyle was in second grade, local elementary school in Smyrna, and they didn't have any after-school programs. And there was a program I called in East Cobb. They weren't really interested to come teach in Smyrna. So we said, hey, you know what, we'll form a business. I'll find someone online and we'll teach. And that's kind of how KBH started, but it wasn't what the company is today. But there's a lot of values that we learned with that chess business that we still apply today. So Chess to Children, really, again, it was a business that it was started, I'm not going to use the word spite, but it was kind of because of spite, because this company kind of blew us off. So we said, hey, we're going to see what they charge. We're going to go like half of that. We're going to go find a coach. And I told Kyle, who was in second grade, go recruit some of your friends. So we thought we would have maybe 5. I thought same thing in this room. I thought we'd have like 5, 10 people. I mean, first class was like 20, 30 kids. And so fast forward, that business, even though it's under its own entity now, is still going 17, 18 years later. We have 600 kids that we teach chess to. And for me, everyone's like, oh, you must have played chess growing up. Your family's from India. I was like, I didn't play chess. I never played chess growing up. And I just saw an opportunity to teach a lot of children our future, to invest in them. How do you, think strategically? How, like I was talking about my engineering background, how to solve problems that you don't even see yet. That's what chess does also. So there's a lot of correlation between chess and the real life and the stuff we started doing. So that's how chess came along, or the Chess to Children business came along early. So like I mentioned, 2018, I left Williams. Again, there was nothing guaranteed. I'd been in the corporate world for, it was 20 some odd years. And, we got our first contract it was early 2019 under KBH. And it was a project associated with Georgia Power. It was close to Macon, Georgia. And, I'll be fully transparent. The project did not go well. It really did not go well. It was a lot of lessons learned. There's a quote I've heard from people that, failure is a birthplace of success. And honestly, that project, when it failed and when we got asked to leave the job site, I was like, holy cow, I just left, this corporate job, this career to go start something that, you just didn't know what was going to happen. So that was a lesson about, you learn things and then you apply them. I took my son, my youngest, to a baseball lesson last night, and I was thinking about lessons, and I was realizing as he's taking these lessons, the point of lessons is to keep practicing to eventually get better. And it's kind of what happened here in 2019. So then what happened after 2019, after that bad project, was the next fall, COVID hits, right? So here we are in the midst of COVID, no clue what was going to happen. Power plants were still running, but the people we were providing, more project management, project controls, more workforce solutions, more the non-manuals, it was hard to engage with those people or get those people at our projects because of where we stood. So we had very few employees at that time. It was myself and my wife at that time supporting the back office. Not a lot of ability to go visit people, even though I tried. They're like, hey, we can't, offices are closed. So, I was starting to almost think about how do I get back into the corporate world. But at that time, it was also difficult to even have that conversation with anybody about how do you get back in. So, I just said, okay, we're going to figure it out. We're going to try to get through it. We were juggling money from different bank accounts, right? So this is kind of the growth story. This is where it's been pretty negative to this point, except for the chess story, right? So in 2021, we grew from 6 to like 10 people. So we were a little under $1 million. The next year, again, we kind of doubled. So I was like, oh, we doubled, so starting to see the growth. And then you can see the big jump in 23. David, I know, he validated all our numbers for Bulldog 100. So I think he's seen these numbers, but we grew in 23, and then you can see 24, 25, and, Casey can tell you the numbers, but I think we're on track to have double-digit growth again this year. But I'm going to spend a little time on 23 and what happened there. So in 22, through the relationships we've had with Southern Company and some other utilities, we won a contract that was tied to vendor services. It's workforce solutions. It's a consultative type contract providing technical resources to our clients. And so it was the first type of contract they did. It was going to be supporting you know, different parts of the power sector. So anything from coal remediation to the future with battery storage to gas plants to nuclear to hydro. And we were awarded one of these contracts, but we didn't really know what that meant because it was one of those contracts that didn't really have a dollar figure on it, just had the opportunity to get work. And so through a lot of the relationships we had with Southern and a few other utilities, we were able to find quite a few resources to add to our company. And so you can see what the count is today at 130 people through then, and 25 we're up to close to 150 now. But that was the big jump between 22 and 23 was we got an opportunity. It was relationships with big client. It wasn't handed to us. It was something, again, through my GE career, through my Williams career, you just develop relationships and you stay in touch with those relationships. Even when COVID hit, you're still trying to do as much as you can with those relationships. A lot of times when something goes sour, you lose a job, or if you get kicked off a job site, the easy thing is to just go and try to do something else or go elsewhere. But if you stay after it, that's what we did, and we won this contract. So this was a great story that happened, and the growth has been great over the last few years. So what does it actually look like day to day? So I share a lot of this with Kyle and Casey, hear this all the time. So we're a very people-first organization. I mean, even though I was an engineer, and most people think, okay, as an engineer, that's not really how you're trained. Like I said, I wasn't the typical engineer. I came out in a commercial role with GE. I really cherished the time when you can interact with clients and interact with people in the field or interact with people in this type of room. And, so GE actually tried to put me in different roles back in the corporate office. And I would always get an itch because I wanted to be back out in front of clients. So we're a very people-first organization. So, here's three things that kind of what we do every day. The open and honest communication. So, essentially, the more open, the more candid you are with people, they're going to trust you. The more they trust you, the more they're going to go to bat for you, and the more loyal they are. So, I just try every day just to be the same person I was, the way I want to be treated. So open and honesty, I think, is number one. Customer centricity, it's not just the external customer. External customers you have to cherish and love, but the internal customers, I believe, are even more important, right? Because, like I said, we have about 150 people that work for us, and they are our bread and butter every day. They're the ones seeing. I mean, of those 150, I would say 140 are actually at job sites, interacting with clients every day. And so, if you treat them right, what are they going to do? They're going to go bat for your company. Actually, I just got 2 calls from a couple employees about some opportunities that's happening at Plant Vogel outside of Augusta, and I love getting those calls. And I think the internal external relationships you have are key. And then relationships, I kind of talked about that already, but investing in relationships, I got this advice early on in my GE career that, it's not just the person at the top of the ladder, right? You can have the conversations with the presidents or the general managers or whomever your clients, but there's people that are doing the day-to-day work. And then it's also, tracking and targeting who's going to be the next person that's going to grow, right? So, figure out, like yesterday I was having lunch with someone and they were just having conversations about the growth in their supply chain. And they were saying, oh, keep an eye on this one individual, which to me means that individual 10 years from now, more than likely is going to be running the supply chain for this organization. So part of it is figuring out who that is and target that. And honestly, a lot of companies will tell you that. They'll tell you, hey, who do they have on a pedestal? Who's going to be the next guy in line, right? So investing in relationships, the Southern relationship has been almost 25 years. They're an animal. I'm not sure if anyone in this room is from Southern Company or Georgia Power or Alabama Power, but they're a beast. And you have to invest. It's not just one call and they say no. It's not just taking one time to the Masters or golfing or taking them dinners. It's the no's. It's the, hey, you lost this contract. Hey, you got kicked off this job site. It's the constant working through it with them. So the relationship thing to me has been one of the most important things I've done in my career. So from 6 to 130, again, a lot of this is culture. I think I said it a couple of years ago when we won the Bulldog 100 that culture doesn't happen by accident. You know, something that you have to take time on. But, you know, for us, you know, how we celebrate our people, I think is one of the most important things. It's not just giving them a bonus or paying them more, but, you know, we reward them. We do something called spotlights, where monthly we highlight employees and their families and, you know, advice they want to give to our organization. So Hannah's been kind of in charge of that, and she's been doing a fantastic job. And it's really interesting because when I came up with the idea, I just thought, hey, we're just spotlighting individuals. But every time she'll send a note to someone, the notes they get back are like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. You know, this is like the biggest honor I've ever had. I think Casey got spotlighted last month, and his note back was like, wow, this is a dream type of thing. Yeah, I've been waiting for it his whole life, but I think he was joking. But most people actually, they don't get that. They don't get that. And so celebrating people, you know, we do something. I started when we had 10 employees that we would send birthday cards with a little gift card on their birthday, right? And now we're 150, and we haven't stopped doing that. Now, at some point, my hands are gonna start hurting, and you know, you can't keep doing it. But today, we still do that. You know, and those little things, you know, we do again. I bet a lot of you guys do a holiday party, but a lot of our people in this industry haven't had holiday parties, and so to do a holiday party is a big deal when their spouses can come and see, you know, their peers and what they do. So celebrating people, leading with visibility. You know, so I just use the term being present. You know, so I love being in the field. And when I say the field, I love not to just go out and see clients. I love to talk to our guys at job sites. This week, Kyle and I were at Plant Bowen and a couple other sites, and it's just being there, seeing them, being visible is huge, because I think people forget that, you know, you have people, and a lot of times they're on an island. So if you get a chance to spend time with them, they appreciate it. And just call them. Just call them also. You're hiring for values, training for skills. You know, I think training anybody to do anything is pretty easy. I think hiring the right people with the right values and character is the hard part, right? So how do you make sure you do that, and find the right people? And then communicating relentlessly. You know, again, we don't overburden. I told our staff, we have a small back office. I told them, hey, I don't want a lot of emails. I don't want a lot of random stuff sent to the field. They're busy every day, but let's communicate the key things. Let's do an all hands, you know, town hall once a quarter and share a lot of the big things that are going on with the business and things that can help them. And so I think these are things we try to do very intentionally. So beyond the office, I talked a little bit about the family. So again, I have 5 children. Like I said, I got divorced. I got remarried. Erica's my wife. We were in India this past December. So Tyler's our youngest. He just turned 10. Alexa's 12. She got named Alexa 6 months before Alexa was invented. So we're still working through that. Hannah's here. Kyle was in this picture. I don't know where Kyle was. Kyle's down here. Bella, and then, you know, Nala's our dog. But the reason I show this one, you know, having a company, when you start a company, you know, everyone talks about family life balance, and it's extremely important. But starting a company is not easy, and working is not easy. But staying grounded is something that you have to figure out how to do. You have to take time for yourself. You have to, you know, if you're able to, try to, you know, travel, try to work out. I mean, these are things that for me, beyond the office, you know, I try to golf when I have time. Todd was asking me earlier. I was like, I haven't been playing much. It's obvious if you play with me, but family, friends, and then community. You know, again, we've been fortunate. We've seen some good growth over the last 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, and giving back to the community. The chess thing was, it happened, but it wasn't just the one thing we want to do. You know, we give back to Smyrna. That's where our office is. We give back to Smyrna quite a bit. We're involved with all the different charities at all the job sites that our employees are at. But it's very important, if you're fortunate enough to be successful, to give back, right? And share what you've learned and what else we can do. But I think here, I just want to pause, because I think a lot of people kind of skip over this one really quickly about family and the friendships and making sure you stay very connected and being involved with the community. But this is something that I feel is very important. I try to do as best I can. All right, so if I can tell you one thing, and it's more than one thing, it was just 4 things, but So the first one, come prepared, then bet on yourself. So again, if there's anyone in this room, that's looking to start a business, you know, take your time, make sure you've thought through it. It's not just something that it's the American dream, because it's hard, right? Don't quit your current job today. Put in the time, make sure your network's sound, make sure your reputation's sound, make sure your relationships are there, right? Because it will happen. The last 2 years at the Bulldog 100, I sat with these companies that were at the table, and the first year we won, this one individual came up and he just said, he goes, "Hey, I'm gonna win next year." I'm like, "Yeah, I want you to. That'd be great. That'd be awesome." We won the second year. So, but then this year there was another individual at our table, and he finished, I think, 4 or 5, and he was like, we've been doing the same thing. We've been digging. I really hope we're there next year. And I was like, it doesn't just happen easily, right? It's hard. And so, that come prepared, then bet on yourself. Relationships, I've talked about it, right? I mean, relationships are the business, right? You have to invest in that. Just like you invest in the processes and backroom of an office environment, you have to spend the time on relationships, because those aren't easy at all. Lead with honesty. Like I said, being transparent builds loyalty. Loyalty builds companies. It's something that I preach, because if you're not honest, even when it's hard, I mean, you have to have some tough conversations with people, and if you try to dance around it, they're going to know, and others will know. It's a small world you're in. And then let your why come first. Like I said, the chess thing wasn't meant to be, really. It just happened. But I think what it did was it allowed me to think about what I wanted to do next, which was KBH. And then being part of KBH has allowed me to expand in this energy industry. This energy industry is, I mean, it's absolutely at a point right now that it's electric. I mean, I say energy and electric, but it is, there's more I've ever seen in my 30 plus years in this space. And anyone that's not sure what industry they want to get into or what they're interested in, look into energy, call me. I would love to talk to you about it, because there's so much happening. In this state in particular, it's so busy what's going on. So, again, let the why come first. And that's it. But again, a couple things I just wanted to add that I didn't really have on the slides. Like I said, our business model was somewhat simple. We wanted to figure out how to help, our clients with some of the problems they were having. So at first I thought we were going to start a construction business. So in 2020, when COVID hit, one of my business partners, Greg Thompson with Thompson Construction, we were out at Vogel when they were trying to finish the new build out there, and we said, hey, we wanted to figure out how to do work together, but we just never figured it out until we had an opportunity to buy a small hydro company together. And we created another business called KBH Thompson. So that's a joint venture business. I didn't really talk about that, but we also have that business that's doing a lot of hydro modernization work, and we're doing projects around the country. But that allowed me then to say, hey, the core KBH now can provide more of this consultative, technical expertise and project management. And so those two businesses, and the chess business is still around, they're all kind of coupled in a way where we're spending a lot of time just investing in people. It's hard right now. The labor markets are some of the toughest markets we've ever seen. Finding good people, it continues to get hard, but our best source of, everyone keeps asking, like, how do you find people? Our best source of finding people are our own employees, because we've been treating them fairly, properly. We communicate with them, we engage with them. And so they are sending us resumes that you don't find on LinkedIn or any other websites that people typically post, right? So we're going to continue that. We give them big referral bonuses when they send us people that stay with us. So it's been a journey. It's been fun. Again, I appreciate your guys' time today. I would love to take any questions or comments or anything else you guys want to share.
First of all, thank you for your time.
Absolutely.
Going back to the initial failed contract, I mean, was it just circumstances, a lack of experience, and then, what specifically did you learn from that you fixed going forward?
Yeah. So Patrick, I was told to repeat the question, so I'm going to repeat it. See, I'm not sure where he is, but I'm going to do it. He asked about our failed contract. kind of the details behind that, and then what did we learn and how did we go forward pretty much. So it was a contract that, again, it was our first contract. And, I leaned heavily on some folks I knew from my GE and Williams days to kind of help manage that project. And what I didn't do, again, I can see clearly, what I didn't do was I wasn't as fully engaged as I should have been, right? I wasn't at the job site as often. I wasn't questioning. I wasn't doing the questioning attitude with the project manager and the team. I wasn't engaging with the client on schedules, or if there were issues, like I was saying earlier about honesty, you have to be honest. If there's a schedule issue or concern or a cost overrun, have that conversation earlier, because if you wait too long, it's gonna come back to bite you, which it did. So it was a few things that kind of coupled together, but it ultimately came down to just me not being as tied in and as engaged as I should have been. And again, the lesson I learned from that is, it kind of changed my whole way of being. The way I interact and engage on projects, people, just trying to always stay in the know is extremely important to me. Great question.
I would love to know, what would you say?
I think a mic's coming to you.
Here you go. Hi, thank you so much for speaking. Just wanted to say. Sorry.
No? Okay.
I hear you.
So first off, thank you so much for speaking. I would love to know, what would you say is your core why it is that you do what you do, why it is you get up and find that daily motivation to continue?
And that's a great question. She asked, what's my core why? I'm not going to say money, because it's not. I think a lot of it is just, I really enjoy this space I'm in. I really do. Now, are there days that are hard? There's a lot of days that are hard, right? But I still, people ask me a lot, like, hey, Tarun, how long are you going to do this? Are you going to sell? Are you going to give it up to the family type of thing? And, I really enjoy the energy associated with just solving stuff and figuring it out. And it keeps me motivated. And, so I think a lot of it is around helping, our people and our clients with issues. And if there's a chance we can solve an issue, even if it's just for one person, that's kind of my why, right? Like I said, I think this space is absolutely crazy right now. And am I nervous? I mean, heck yeah, I'm nervous every day, right? But it's a nervous where there's a lot of opportunity. Whenever, again, what's that? It's the saying, there's around chaos, there's opportunity. But, the why is, there's a way to show your children, your family, the way you do things. But then there's also, inside of me, it's just like a burning thing I want to do. Hopefully that answered it. That was a great question. You got two questions back there.
Thank you for speaking today. I really enjoyed your presentation. One question I had, just as one of the younger people in the room today, was, is there anything or kind of any moment you remember from early in your career that you think set you up for success later down the line?
So the question was, anything early in my career that set me up for success? Great question. B, I think, starting with a company like General Electric back in the day, Jack Welch was running the company from 94 to 2001 when he retired. But I think a lot of GE back then, GE's changed now. So, I mean, again, there's certain segments of GE that are doing well, but it's individual companies now. But back then it was one big business of a lot of different pieces. But I had a lot of good leaders and mentors during that day. I wanted to seek out a mentor early, because I didn't know what I was doing, right? You come out of college and you're just goofing around for 4 or 5 years. And all of a sudden you're in this real world, you're doing a job, and you needed someone to kind of give you some advice. And the advice your parents give you sometimes just doesn't really relate to what you're trying to do with work. So finding a good mentor was key. Taking roles that were uncomfortable was key, because I was in a role, it was in the corporate office in, forget where I was at. It was a corporate office. And it was a comfortable role. It was just like you were a couple of years out of school, you were just doing a few things, and I was like, man, I wasn't saying it was easy, but it was, so my mentor was like, well, look at what do you want to do? I was like, I want to go see what's happening in the field. I want to go talk to clients. And so I had the opportunity to go to Roanoke, Virginia, which was close to Virginia Tech. So the back of my brain, I was like, wow, I'm going to be close to Virginia Tech. I can go to football games, I can goof around. But what really happened was it was a small office. I had a chance to engage with clients directly. I developed a relationship. They taught me a lot. It was uncomfortable at first because, again, growing up, in Virginia, there weren't a lot of Indian people there, and so Roanoke, Virginia wasn't a very diverse, city, and so I had to go meet with like contractors and industrial clients and a different type of clients. And I was just this kid that was a couple years out of college, and it was uncomfortable, but it made me better. It made me better that I'm not saying it was cold calling, because GE, you never had a cold call because you can always get in the door, but you still had to sell and have the conversations about what you had the opportunity to provide them. Great question.
Thank you. I just had a question. Can you go back when you started Chess to Children, and then you ran that, I think if I understood it, for 10 years while you were working. And then after that, you took the initiative and you started your own company. So and you still have Chess to Children today.
Yeah.
So just what you learned from there, did that give you the confidence to go ahead and say, okay, I can start? And then while you were doing kind of two things at once, I'm just curious on that.
Yeah. So it's funny you say that, because right now so we still have this business. I have someone that runs the day-to-day of it, but it's funny. We're hosting a chess tournament this Sunday in Smyrna because there just hasn't been tournaments in Smyrna, and parents and kids have been asking. And even though I'm not that engaged with it day to day, I'm not sure if you saw, there was a picture where there's uniforms. So there's different sports teams that wear the chess and the KBH uniforms in softball and baseball. But so we had parents that were asking, and so we were hosting a chess tournament this weekend. I have, again, one of my coaches running it. But so chess was going on, and I was still working at GE, then went to Williams, and then we started KBH. But chess was still happening. This company is like a charity. It doesn't make much money. I mean, that's purposely done because I pay our coaches a ridiculous amount of money, because finding a chess coach in this market is not easy unless you just pay them a lot. So we were running this business. KBH started. KBH Thompson started. And then we just started an entity last year called KBH Union Services. So it's our union arm in the same market. So we have 4 different businesses right now that we're running. And so it's a juggle. It's a juggle. My wife, and sometimes Kyle and Hannah will say the same thing to me. My wife's like, why are you still doing the chess business? Because you'll still get a call about some parent complaining about something or a coach needing something. And I'm like, this wasn't for the money. This wasn't for a business. This is, kind of giving back. And we're at a lot of Title I schools, and these kids would never get a chance to get this exposure. So this one just kind of keeps happening. At some point, I'm going to give it to one of our coaches, or somebody that runs the business. But yeah, juggling businesses is tough. I don't suggest it to anybody. But again, sometimes it just happens. It happens by default. You just have to have good people. Fortunately, I found some good people to help kind of run some of the things in that business. Going back there.
Thank you for being here. I am wondering what trends in the energy sector are driving the biggest changes in workforce right now?
Yeah, so I mean, really, there's 3 things that I see with energy, right? So I mean, everyone knows data centers are huge, driven by AI. Industrial loads, so because there's a lot more coming back to this country instead of what's happening internationally. So there's a lot more manufacturing happening. And then electrification, right? You got electric vehicles. So those 3 things kind of all hit like the perfect storm. And because of that, the power needs are just off the charts. And there's states like Georgia, like Virginia, there's a handful of states in the Southeast that are very welcoming to data centers. And You know, if they can make it happen, they make it happen. And because you're in a regulated market like Georgia, Georgia Power kind of controls what happens there. But, you know, I heard this a couple of weeks ago that, you know, so Southern Company has 41 gigawatts of power they generate. So that's a lot of power. So that's between Georgia Power, Alabama Power, Mississippi Power, and their nuclear entity. Right now, they have about 75 gigawatts of power being asked for. So more than double what they just generate today. And that's, again, driven by those three, mainly the data centers. So, so again, for us personally, and Dean Chatterjee mentioned this, we're trying to educate people as fast as we can because you have an aging workforce, you have people retiring, and then honestly, the really good people are working. So where do you find that gap? And it's got to come out of schools, but they have to almost be ready to go. So how do we train them? How do we kind of move the stigma? You know, I feel like a lot of people come out of Georgias of the world with great degrees in business, or they go consulting, but not enough come out to go to energy, or if they do, they just go to Georgia Power. But there's a lot of contractors like us. There's vendors like GE that need the help, and they need people that can do everything from project management to scheduling to estimating to cost analysis to everything, because all those projects that are going to be coming are going to need people for years. So it's like a 15 to 20 plus year run. So that's a lot of what's driving this whole energy thing. And nuclear, I mean, I haven't even talked about nuclear, but nuclear, so they built Vogtle 3 and 4, and, you know, so that's happened here, but now they're talking about these small modular reactors all around the country, but they still take years to come, but they're going to come. But short term, these gas units that they're building, so I think right here in Georgia, they're building, I think 6 to 8. And then these battery storage plants are doing 10 here in Georgia. That's just another way to distribute power to the grid. So just there's so many different ways. They're modernizing the hydro fleet. So these are 100-year-old assets they're modernizing. So there's a lot of power stuff that's happening, but the needs are even higher than that.
Hi. Okay. I have a question about, well, first off, thank you for being here.
Sure.
I love hearing the story about where you started and how you got here. I live in the tech staffing world, so it's cool to see the transition. But my question is around what going forward for KBH Industrial. So we know like where you guys are at now, but what is the 5-year, 10-year plan? What does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, I get asked that a lot. Yeah, I mean, as you can imagine, we're getting people interested in a company like ours because we're in the space that it's a sweet spot, you know, for an acquisition to grow. I mean, so there's conversation around that, but I mean, honestly, I back to the why question. I'm still motivated. I still like doing what I do. I don't think, even if I played golf every day, I don't think my golf game will get better. So I don't think that would help. So, you know, I think for KBH, we're continuing to evolve. I mean, Casey and Kyle hear this all the time, that we're always trying to figure out like what's the next iteration, and you know, what can we offer different? You know, someone's used this term a lot, but how do you become stickier with your clients, right? So what if you're in there, what else can you bring them? What other solutions can you bring them? So for me personally, it's a combo of figuring that out and or partnering with companies. You know, again, hopefully we're going to have this energy advisory board that we're going to start at Georgia, that we can start working with companies and kind of bring more solutions, giving back more to the communities that we serve, to, you know, colleges like this, Virginia Tech, you know. So I mean, I wish I had the right answer. It's just it's kind of the unknown, but I just know there's a lot coming up. So excited to be part of it. Yeah. Oh. I don't know where this one's going to go.
Hey everyone. So with my question is more centered around, I mean, Kate's question was around where are we going, but then also in general, where are we going with AI? How do you see that impacting where this industry is going, and in general, the workforce as a whole?
Again, I'm not an expert in AI, but there's tons of you in this room that are. But like I said earlier, the AI, you know, train that we see, there's still a lot of unknowns around it, right? But it's here, and I don't see it going anywhere. So that means you need the power to stay up with those data centers, right? So that's A, right? There's a lot of need for power to support that. There's a lot of needs to plants that they've shut down. How do you bring those back to life like they're doing at Palisades and other new plants? So the AI demand, I believe, is real, and it's going to continue to be real. Now, I think supply chain is going to have a hard time keeping up with that, but they're trying to figure it out. But in terms of like AI for our company and for other companies, I just think you have to be part of it. I mean, I'm not saying you have to fully adapt to, being all AI every day, but you got to use the tools to help you get better. I was telling Kyle yesterday, I was looking at some terms and conditions on a contract that typically we have our lawyers review. And I'm sure I'll still have them review it, but I just put it into Claude. We use Claude from Anthropic, and what it threw out in less than a minute was, I mean, staggering, because it's normally what we pay, a lot of lawyers to look at, which, like I said, I'm sure we'll still have them look at it, but now we got a lot of the initial pieces of it. But how do we use AI, for our business to become more efficient? Again, I'm not trying to get rid of jobs. We're trying to just get better and smarter and faster, right? And so I don't know. I think it's great. I just think I was using it as a Google machine, right? But I'm realizing it's way more than a Google machine, and it offers a lot. And like I've told all of our employees, you heard on the all hands this week, that we don't expect you guys, we're not going to make it mandatory to be trained on it, but you have to know what's going on around it, because if you don't, you're just going to be left behind. I mean, if they're looking at two candidates, the one that knows a little bit more about AI versus this one, they're going to select this one all day long, right? So, yep. Did that answer your question?
Yep.
Thank you. Good morning. Congrats on your success story.
Thank you.
You talked about culture, and I was wondering, when you had that expansive year of growth from 22 to 23, if I remember correctly,
Mm-hmm.
how did you keep culture front of mind, if you will, in hiring all those people? And did you encounter any hurdles along the way that might be important for the group to hear?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I mean, the question was, how did the year was 23 when we grew, how did we keep culture kind of front and center? And I think it goes back to this people first mindset, and yes, we did bring on a lot of people. And again, we didn't have a big back office. We still don't. But even then, it was just I want to say it was like 4 of us. But I remember the conversations with the 4 of us were around, hey, how are we touching base with these employees? You don't always have to do in person, but what type of touch points are we having? What type of engagement are we having with them? How are we not making them feel like they're on an island, right? Like the birthday cards was a piece of it, but I think more of it was, how do you personally, that year I was traveling a lot to make sure I could see as many of them as I could, and just engage with them. But for me, it's just, hey, my phone's always on, right? I mean, my wife hates that I say that, but it's true. And it's, so people call, they don't call at midnight or 1 a.m., but they call late, and they call early, and you answer it, or you get back to them pretty quick, right? Or you respond when you can, right? But I think that year it was more about, and honestly, that year was also a test for that big contract with Southern, because we got awarded that contract. They weren't sure if we could handle it, and then our contract just got renewed last year, and they pretty much said, hey, we didn't know what KBH was, and now we do, right? And I think they know that, hey, the responding, being open with them, just communicating, like I said, relentlessly, it was key. So it was just a few different areas of it, but I think just being present was the biggest piece. I'm not taking any questions from Todd Baldry. I can't do that. Todd and I did our executive MBA together, so we have a lot of stories that we can't share.
I've actually seen a lot of this journey from afar, and it's been really amazing. So congrats, Tarun. And I wasn't sure I was going to be here till like 11:30 last night. I forgot this was this morning. As an entrepreneur myself, and for future entrepreneurs, I want to ask you a question. about the 6 months leading up to your decision to leave. I remember what it was like for me. I'd like you to kind of expand a little bit upon kind of what was going through your mind at the time. Were you looking for a ramp out, like a deal that might just be the first one to get you out? Was that the one that crashed? Something similar happened to me. And really just kind of, for all the future entrepreneurs here, what that was like and kind of what was the final straw?
Yeah. No, hey, it's a great question. So Kyle's question was that 6 months before I left, what did that feel like, look like? And I mean, Todd, as you know, I mean, that was scary. It was really scary. I knew I wanted to do it, but that comfort of getting a paycheck, it was tough, right? I mean, just try to walk away from something that was you knew you were getting that paycheck. You knew you were getting your benefits. I mean, and, we, part of it was, older kids were a little older. So fortunately, or hopefully they were on their own somewhat, but they weren't, because they were in college. But, those 6 months, yes, we did get that contract while I was still there. I was transparent with my company. I told them, hey, I want to do this. If there's an opportunity to do it with you guys, like as a joint venture, they were having their own issues, so that didn't really pan out. So yeah, I said, you know what, we're going to do it. If we're going to pull off the Band-Aid, let's do it. And if it doesn't work, I mean, Erica was great, but she's like, hey, if it doesn't work, I mean, you'll get opportunities, right? I mean, I think that push, having your significant other giving that push helped. But yeah, we had that contract. So I just said, hey, we're going to do it. And then I'm not saying I forgot, but realizing you got payroll, weekly, but you're not getting paid for 45 to 60 days. That was interesting, right? Because now all of a sudden you're juggling bank accounts to make sure you can cover payroll. Because I learned, again, from a former company, Williams, very early, you miss a payroll, everyone in the industry knows, right? So I said, we're never going to miss a payroll. We're never going to get it wrong. I mean, you may get something wrong, but you make up for it right away. But those 6 months, were tough. They were tough. And it was another 6 months after, because that project didn't go well. So that year, I thought COVID was bad. 19 was bad for us. So, yeah, no, it was a great question. But yeah, it was the mindset was like, okay, if I don't do it now, I'm never going to do it. Right. And do I regret it? Absolutely not. I mean, would I do it again? Absolutely. But is it scary? Absolutely. So thanks, Doc. Great question.
Thanks for being here.
Sure.
As a fellow GE alum like you, I have a fondness for the company and an appreciation for what it was. And for some of the younger people that might not remember or know about GE, it was Fortune's most admired company. HBR's doing case studies about growth as a process, and then it changed, as you said, in the downfall. So knowing what you know about the company and sort of how it had to evolve and go through some tough times, what did you learn most from observing that and understanding that, and how are you applying that to your own growth?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you remember. I mean, I still remember that, because I left in 2013. So Jeff Immelt took over as CEO in 2001 from Jack Welch. And those first 5, 6, 7, 8 years, let's just call them, they were fine, right? But the one thing that he did differently, or two things, he didn't appreciate, people that weren't like account executive, because I wasn't account executive covering Southern Company and TVA. He didn't appreciate the account executive roles or the account director roles, the relationship roles. He just assumed, okay, you're GE, you're just going to be able to get what you want. And so they scale back on some of those roles. My role wasn't impacted, but they scaled back on some of those roles across the world. And again, like I said, early on, I learned about relationships. And to me, that was a sign. I was like, man, this guy, it's different. He's doing something different than what I was taught and what I've grown up with. So that was one. And then they went to acquire Alstom back in that time frame as well. And again, that acquisition did not go, I think, as planned, right? And so I think that was kind of the beginning of what was starting to spin them the way they spun. And so for me personally, the two things I learned from both of those were the relationship thing, like I kind of preached earlier, is absolutely critical. I would never get rid of anybody from relationships. And actually, relationships aren't just a role, right? It's the entire organization. Everyone, all my guys at our job sites, I mean, they're selling, they're recruiting. Everyone in our back office, I tell them they're selling, they're recruiting. And the other thing is, we've stayed lean purposely. It's not just for the growth and, you know, making as much money as you can, but I never wanted to get over our skis, you know, because I saw the GEs and even Williams put so many people in their back office. Everyone was a vice president, and you know that can hurt companies, especially when you're trying to grow a company. So, have I thought about acquisitions? Absolutely. But then again, I think back to that Alstom acquisition and how bad it failed their company. So, we're just trying to be strategic more on how we look at those things. But I think those are the two areas that I learned from GE right around my time I was leaving. Apply today. Thanks. Hey.
Hi, thank you so much for coming to speak today. It was incredibly insightful. So I really enjoyed how you mentioned that the people at your company, like they're the bread and butter, and just how client relationships are important. The internal relationships are just as important. And, you know, in this market with the AI boom and, you know, it's ever evolving, how do you align, like as a leader, like your entire, you know, workforce to aim towards the same goal so that you guys can keep growing and developing?
Yeah, that's so the question was, how do we align our organization to kind of just be on the same page around AI or other initiatives, right? And it's not easy, especially when we got people in the state of Washington, we got people in Michigan, we got people throughout the Southeast. So when you're scattered, especially when you're on job sites, it's not easy to always, you know, have the same thoughts in all their heads, right? But again, I mentioned earlier, we try to do touch points with our key individuals. So, and we share the message, you know, like I said, once a quarter, we do all hands. We share the message via email, but the touch points are an opportunity for us to engage with people that we may not see as often. And we share with them, hey, these are things we're doing. We have, you know, training platform that we utilize, and we encourage our team, hey, there's AI courses, there's things on construction management, project management, cost analysis. So we're trying to just push training and encourage it. You know, we cover everything they do there, but how do we align with AI and things like that? I think there's more to come, but I think we try to talk about it and we try to have individual conversations. I mean, again, I mentioned Casey and Kyle a lot, but they hear it a lot from me that, hey, we have to be in touch with our people, regardless if we're 10, 150 or 1,000. I mean, we got to figure that out, because that's when you start losing people, you know, where everyone just has kind of different ideas in their head and it's not a connected company. Sure.
So crypto mining requires a lot of processing or power as well. So do you see the perfect storm brewing between the intersection of AI, crypto mining, and do you believe the infrastructure is going to be there to support it?
I mean, so the question is about crypto mining and you know, what's happening there as well. And I want to say yes, that it's going to be, right? I do. I truly want to believe it's a yes. And I do believe that we have some of the best utilities in this country that are trying to figure out the issues, right? Like I said earlier, I think the labor piece is the biggest piece. You can go build a gas plant, you can go modernize your fleet, you can go build a small modular reactor nuclear, but you have to have people to run them, you have to have people to build them, you have to have people to oversee them, right? So, you know, I think supporting that's going to happen. It's just, how do we keep finding people, right? People's the biggest risk I see to this entire industry. And that's why, again, we talk about workforce development. You know, how do we develop the workforce? How do we educate the workforce on energy, and how do we get them ready? You know, I mean, we have ideas of, can we start like certificate programs on energy, you know, while they're in college? So all of a sudden when people say you don't have enough experience, we can say, no, they do. They have XYZ, or they came out with a PMP, you know, which is a project management certification, or a scheduler certification. How do we do that while they're in school, or set them on a path so they're ready, right? So I think the labor piece is going to be the toughest piece. But to your question, I do. I think the crypto mining along with AI is all going to hit at the same time, and there's going to be a lot of needs for power, and they're going to have to figure it out. Any other questions? one more.
Morning.
Morning.
Can you just talk a little bit about, we talked about your lessons learned on your first project. Can you talk about how you were awarded that contract, having no experience before?
Yeah. So the question was, how were we awarded the project that failed, but sunk in the hole? So again, it was a relationship. It was a relationship with somebody I knew from Georgia Power, and he knew that we were. And so again, it's someone I knew. It was someone that we've known each other for a while, and you know, it was an opportunity for something that was new to us. But he said, "Hey, this is something you guys should be able to do based on some of the experience you guys have done and some of the people you should be able to pull in, right?" So we kind of looked at it and we said, yeah, this would be awesome. This would be a first great project to go after. And it just, you know, when it came time for them to essentially fire us, that was that open, honest conversation we had. I'm still good friends with him today. And I tell him, you know, hey, I appreciate what you did, because, you know, he could have limped along and we could have made it work. But I mean, I wouldn't have learned the lessons, right? So yeah, it was a relationship that I'd had. And again, relationships, like I said, can help you a lot, but you still got to perform and execute. Thank you. Great question. Anybody else?
Well, Tarun, thank you very much for.
Absolutely. Thank you.